Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom, and we are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning, and we have a very busy morning in store for you. We'll be talking with Steuben County Sheriff Jim Allard in just a little bit. That's in the 7 o'clock hour. We have a few things here, if we can get to them. I feel like it's going to be one of those busy mornings about the New York State budget. We'll also be talking a little bit about maybe Trump's trial. We've got some Israel updates. First, I don't know why I'm starting with this. Remember Senator Bob Goldbars Menendez? He may be throwing his wife, Nadine, under the bus in this corruption trial. That's according to court documents. He may argue that his wife withheld information and led him to believe nothing illegal was occurring when the couple allegedly accepted cash and gold bars in exchange for political favors. This is according to court documents in the senator's federal corruption cases, and the corruption case show, Trying to fix my levels here. They sound a little off. The senator's legal team laid out the New Jersey Democrats' possible defense strategy in a motion filed in January, but only unsealed Tuesday following a request by more than a dozen media outlets. Oof. That's kind of hurt. No surprise. I think it's pretty obvious at this point. Bob Menendez may be looking out for Bob Menendez. The other issue, and I'm just going to say this in passing, there has been quite a few op-eds and essays written recently suggesting that Justice Sonia Sotomayor should resign. They don't want another, Ruth Bader Ginsburg scenario where, let's say, Trump wins the election and then something happens to Sonia Sotomayor that she can no longer fulfill her duties on the bench, and he would be able to pick another conservative judge. They learned their lesson in the past. So there's been, for whatever reason, it really came out of left field. And that's why I brought it up on the show a couple of times, that it kind of surprised me that this dissatisfaction was kind of bubbling. It's not because of the decisions she's made, mind you. It's just because of the strategy, saying we want to learn from our past mistakes. Well, Raul Rees from CNN says the problem with calling on Justice Sonia Sotomayor to resign. And again, I said, wow, this is really interesting. This is apparently gaining traction to have a kind of an opposition piece about it. The push for Sonia Sotomayor to retire is misguided and deeply flawed, he writes. It ignores political reality and reflects ignorance of the lives of people with disabilities. The arrogance of those who want the country's first Latina justice to leave her position is exceeded only by their wishful thinking that she will listen to them. While praising Sonia Sotomayor as the greatest liberal to sit on the Supreme Court in my adult lifetime, The Guardian's Mehdi Hassan wonders why not retire now. The answer is because the Constitution, which Sotomayor took an oath to uphold, that says the justices shall hold their offices during good behavior. Sotomayor's position is a lifetime appointment, not one to be cut short due to political issues. Columnist John Barrow writes that Sotomayor's age problem can be dealt with very simply by her retiring. But by modern Supreme Court standards, Sotomayor is relatively young. That's what I thought was interesting about this. When they started talking about her age, I did not put two and two together that would be the reason that they would make this push. Now, when I say they, this is coming from the left. This is people that don't want to see the conservative majority on the bench. But consider that Ginsburg served on the court for 27 years and was a 4-time cancer survivor before she passed away at 87. Justice John Paul Stevens was 90 when he retired in 2010. Justice Stephen Breyer stepped down in 2022, paving the way for the appointment. We don't have to go through the whole history of this. In contrast, Sotomayor is only 69 years old. She is yet to reach the average life expectancy for an American, which is 76, for an American woman, which is 79, or for a Hispanic woman, which is 81. I don't really quite understand. I guess she has the type 1 diabetes, which I wasn't aware of either. This is all just really interesting infighting to me. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. It's really a lot of quote-unquote intellectuals in a room trying to come up with things to talk about, I guess. She does not serve the interests of the Democrat Party. Her responsibility is to the law, and calls for her retirement are disrespectful and unwarranted. So I just had to, there was kind of like a minor update to something that I brought to you, I don't know, probably a month or two ago, where there was opinion piece after opinion piece suggesting she retired. And I just brought it up because of the shock value for me, and of course the interest in the infighting. All right, enough on that. Let's give you another real update. How about the New York State budget deal? Now, Governor Hochul is kind of taking a victory lap, even though nothing has been finalized. She had the press conference. She also did some interviews. But at the press conference, essentially saying, well, it's done. It's basically done. Well, Carl Hastie, the man who believes that stricter punishment is not a deterrent in crime, he said about the budget, quote, the pencils weren't fully down, but I would say conceptually we're closer on a lot of things. Mike Murphy, a spokesman for Senate Leader Andrea Stewart Cousins, said there is no agreement yet, but Hochul and the legislature are getting closer. I think we were in the same zip code, Hastie said, but I always have to brief members before I can ever say a deal is a deal. The same zip code, okay. Hastie said the biggest questions his members have are related to the tentative housing deal. The housing package, well, we don't want to have to go through all that. But that has been, from the beginning, what Lisa's been reported on is kind of the biggest sticking point. There was also an issue, and I know I brought it up quite a bit. There was also the issue that they didn't want to see, the far left and Albany didn't want to see stricter penalties against people who attacked retail workers, which I still cannot wrap my mind around. But it was another prime example of coddling the criminal, not wanting to do anything to hurt the criminal. And as that one piece was great with Hastie, someone said he acts as if his constituents, his voting base, are criminals. So it sounds like the budget is not there. I don't think you're surprised. I know I wasn't surprised. Yesterday seemed a little bit preemptive, or 2 days ago, a little preemptive, a little bit of wishful thinking from the governor. I guess this has become a tradition that the governor declares, going back to Cuomo's the way I understand it, maybe even before, a victory before victory is actually there. So as this unfolds, we will let you know more of what we know. I'm sorry, I'm writing a note because I just thought of a question I wanted to ask the sheriff. I'll let you know more as things unfold, but I just don't see, well, it's been going on since the 1st. April 1st was the deadline. Hastie could not say whether a 6th extender would be necessary or if the budget will be finished by Thursday. Thursday is when the next extender runs out. So tomorrow is make or break, or they will be on their 6th extender. Okay. Now, okay, I don't want to move too fast this morning. More on the budget when we come back. I don't want to go through all my stories within the first 10 minutes. I know I'm breezing through some oddball things. We will, if you want, we'll talk maybe a little bit about Trump's trial. I thought it was very interesting. Speaking of criminal justice and bail reform and things like that, that the former president visited that bodega in New York City, where he talked about cleaning up New York, where he talked about Bragg going after that bodega worker who was defending himself, if you recall that very famous story. I thought it was a very smart political move for the president to go there, and did receive a lot of attention, not just in kind of the normal outlets like a Fox News or a New York Post. It also received some attention on CNN and elsewhere. So I thought that was a good move. And if you recall, yesterday we talked about Lee Zeldin suggesting that the president really go out when he's not in the trial and do a lot of meet and greets, meet a lot of people in New York City. It really can't hurt, so why not? And I think that bodega visit was a very smart move. We may talk a little bit about his case. I do have a lot of really interesting pieces here from about Israel and about really the anti-Israel sentiment here in the United States. We talked yesterday about the protesters who are shutting down bridges and really inconveniencing people. I have a couple of articles on that, a couple of opinion pieces on that. Just to give you a quick update, on the hush money trial, if you want to call it that. A few highlights from the New York Post, just so you're up to date this morning. Justice Juan Merchant accused Trump of intimidating a juror who was called in to clarify the defense's claims of alleged anti-Trump Facebook posts. The judge said that Trump was audibly uttering something before issuing a stern warning. Quote, "I won't tolerate that. I won't have any jurors intimidated in this courtroom. I will be crystal clear," the judge said. Now, 7 jurors have been selected so far to serve on the jury for Trump's hush money trial. The first batch started at 96 people Monday, but dwindled down after several bowed out after the first day. Only 6 were picked following several challenges from both parties for the 6-week trial. Mayor Eric Adams praised court officials for their commitment to maintaining a very orderly environment near Manhattan Criminal Court when he paid a visit to the Trump trial nearby outside the Manhattan Federal Courthouse. And finally, these are just a few highlights coming from the New York Post. A woman who was dismissed from jury selection said the former president looks exactly like he does on TV. Karen McGee, who works in cybersecurity, was let go from serving due to her commitment to work. She later said that she didn't like Trump. "I don't approve of what he did as president, but the right to a fair trial is extremely important." All right, let's take our first break. We're not going to focus on that this morning. I just want to give you kind of a couple, what the New York Post deemed a couple takeaways. If we have an opportunity, I'll tell you what the other side of the coin, CNN, had to say about it as well. Keep those comments, keep those waves coming in, and we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Isn't your wellness important? Don't you want more energy? Now is the best time to make every day better and relieve those achy muscles and pains than with the Hesselson's Hot Tub. Hesselson's has hot tubs in stock and available for immediate delivery with unbelievable savings. Hesselson's offers 0% interest-free financing for up to 5 full years. Hesselson's carries the only hot tub brand in the industry with the exclusive freshwater salt system that is eco-friendly and easy to use and only enhances your hot tubbing experience. Come in today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselson's hot tub. And remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Attention Medicare beneficiaries. This is an important message for people on Medicare. Today we are talking about Medicare Advantage plans. If you're new to Medicare, moving or losing coverage, and don't have a Medicare Advantage Part C plan, call now because there may be a Medicare Part C plan with additional benefits available in your zip code. You can call now to find out if you're eligible to enroll in a Medicare Advantage plan with additional benefits. Just call 800-351-6177 and a licensed insurance agent can look up your eligibility and plan options and see if you're eligible to enroll in a Medicare Part C plan that could save money or include additional benefits. Don't wait. You are not automatically enrolled in a Part C plan with additional benefits. If you're new to Medicare, moving or losing coverage, call for your free, no-obligation Medicare benefits review. You won't know what plan options are available to you unless you call, so call now. The call is free. Call 800-351-6177. 800-351-6177.
It's a season of Sherry.
Having a good time has always been my #1 goal. I tend to get crazy. At my age, I should not be jumping up and down like that. And if you don't know what I mean, ask your mama. The young ones, y'all like, we don't know what you're talking about. But I promise you, in 30 years, you will.
It's the best time in daytime.
Weekdays at 2 p.m. on Big Fox.
Broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio here on Market Street in Corning. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking on WYDC TV Big Fox. A couple comments this morning. Let me get things straight about the Trump trial. They're accusing him of election meddling while doing the same thing to him. Yeah, it's like he's a threat to democracy as they try to keep him off the ballot as they put him through these trials. Another comment, they're going to keep him in the legal system for months and not let him go to his son's graduation. Obviously trying to keep him from campaigning. Yes, that seems to be At least the optics of it, to put it very politely. I can't think of any other way you could spin it. If you want, well, I said I wouldn't keep talking about this right away, but Piers Morgan, I kind of highlighted a little bit of what he said yesterday. I don't think many of us are big Piers Morgan fans, so don't get me wrong, but he did have an interesting point in this. He said there are many reasons to criticize Donald Trump. And he goes on, of course, talk about all the negatives, right? But one thing you can't say about Trump is that he's a bad father. I've been around him many times when he was with his 5 children, and he's a proud, loving dad, and that feeling is reciprocated by each of them. As any parent knows, you can't fake the kind of relationship with your kids, and it takes a lot of work to achieve mutual respect and genuine affection. So I can only imagine how both he and his youngest son, now 18, Barron, must have felt when the judge in Trump's unprecedented criminal trial suggested that he could be jailed if he tries to skip a day in court, even if it means going to Barron's graduation on May 17th. Now, Piers Morgan's argument yesterday was, do it. The optics on that will lead Trump to the White House. And then, of course, Piers Morgan makes it about himself. But if anyone deserves that kind of day, it's surely Barron, who's had to grow up in the eye of the storm of his controversial father's political and presidential career, which is a good point. We know that one reporter, former NBC executive, saying Barron turned 18, now he's fair game. Yeah, none of that seems to cut much ice with Justice Juan Merchant, who is overseeing the trial and warned Trump yesterday that if he tries to skip any days in court, he may be tossed into a prison cell. Merchant hasn't yet rejected Trump's request to go to the graduation, but he did say that it really depends on how we're doing on time and where we are in the trial. Well, shouldn't it really, as Piers Morgan makes the argument, shouldn't it really depend on your basic sense of humanity toward a father and a son? As Trump said outside the court, it looks like the judge will not let me go to the graduation of my son, who's worked very, very hard, and he is a great student, and very proud of the fact he did so well, has been looking forward for years to graduate with his mother and father there. This small but personally very meaningful moment in yesterday's opening day of the trial just about summed up the whole farce. In the annals of American presidential history, has there ever been a cheaper, more demeaning, and utterly pointless attempt to shame and humiliate one of the only 45 people to be president of the United States? And that's why I bring up this article, because that's where it really starts to hit home, right? If it had happened the way Stormy recounted, and I don't want to get into that, I know it's early, then it was a consensual fling. But keep in mind, one that Trump denies. And Trump wasn't a politician at the time. He was a billionaire real estate tycoon and TV star. You can harbor moral disapproval of it all you wish, but the idea that it has led to a criminal trial in which Trump faces 4 years in prison is ridiculous. It's patently obvious that Manhattan's DA, Alvin Bragg, has been driven by political malice in bringing the 34-count indictment, accusing Trump of falsifying business records, to conceal hush money payments, to buy Daniel's silence before the 2016 election. Even if that's exactly what Trump did, it would be no different from the similar deals struck by the rich and famous in America all the time to stop damaging stories coming out about them, true or false. And there's such a stinking hypocrisy about the way Democrats have tried to destroy Trump for these issues when you go and he goes back and points back to Bill Clinton and others. I don't remember Clinton enduring any criminal trial. However, I do remember him attending his daughter Chelsea's graduation. It's outrageous that Donald and Barron Trump should be deprived of the same shared experience. Should the moment come next month when Merchant bans him from attending, Trump should ignore him and go to the graduation. And here we go, and here's the point, and I'd love to hear your take on it. If Merchant tries to jail him for doing what any loving father in America would do in the same situation, Trump will win the election by a landslide. So that's Piers Morgan's take on things. I thought it was a nice way to piggyback off of the comment we received from viewers. So keep those comments coming in. I'm going to go to another short break. When we come back, we're going to talk just quickly about the New York State budget. I'm hoping we can get to these protesters when it comes to the anti-Israel, anti-Semitic protesters shutting down bridges. Hopefully we can get to all that and much more. So stay with us. Don't forget, Steuben County Sheriff Jim Allard will be our guest in the 7 o'clock hour right here on Frankly Speaking. Stay with us.
You just have to get in the seat of a John Deere 3 Series tractor. Not because of the powerful implements, or because of our unmatched dealer support, Not even because it's in it for the long haul. You just have to get in the seat because being this efficient just feels good.
Right now, get 0% financing for 72 months on a John Deere 1, 2, or 3 Series compact tractor.
Great drivers change lanes very fast, but with no outside mirrors. How come they don't crash? Introducing Angel View, the new wide-angle mirror that reduces blind spots. Angel View simply snaps over your car's rear view mirror, giving you a 160-degree view behind you. Just look at the difference. Look, ordinary rear view mirrors are small and flat, but Angel View has a huge mirror with curved glass. This convex shape allows you to see both blind spots with one glance. And with our Pro Edition special coating, it's anti-glare at night. Get your Angel View now for just $19.99. But wait, Angel View may be discontinued. Due to rising costs, Angel View is stopping manufacturing effective immediately. Once the current inventory is gone, it's gone forever. Order now.
Call 1-800-897-0371 or visit getangelview.com. Order now.
The team competition is over.
Fox Thursday.
One Japanese bento box.
It's every chef.
How'd you do a sushi roll with no rice?
I don't know.
For themselves.
One more thing.
3 people going into elimination. This is insane.
An all-new Next Level chef. Then on an all-new Farmer Wants a Wife. Some say goodbye.
I'm gonna miss you.
And some say hi to family.
How soon do you feel like you guys are ready to have kids?
Oh my God.
Can I tell you who my favorite is?
Who? Tomorrow.
Name something with a diamond in it.
Diamondback rattlesnake.
It's in the name. Name a low-calorie food you might make your edible underwear out of.
Salmon.
Watch it weeknights. Share it the next day.
Wild caught Norwegian teriyaki.
Share in the fun. Weeknights on Family Feud.
7 and 7:30 on.
Our beautiful view of Market Street as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. Thank you so much for joining us this morning in our new expanded 2-hour edition of Frankly Speaking. Another comment from a viewer. I agree with Piers Morgan. He should just go to his son's graduation. Yeah, I think the optics on that, if the judge were to throw Trump into prison for going to graduation, I think, well, as Piers Morgan said, Trump would win the election by a landslide. I think that would be, I think for a lot of people, kind of the weaponization of the justice system has been a bridge too far already. But I think that would bring more people into that fold. Let's quickly talk about New York State's budget. Betsy McKay, I'm never sure if I'm pronouncing that right. She's the former lieutenant governor of New York. She said if you pay New York State taxes, you're paying top dollar and getting bupkis. Nothing in the tentative budget deal announced in Albany changes that. Just as a heads up. State tax money is supposed to provide services and improve the state's economic outlook. Great point. But a just released report shows New York's economic perspectives plunging to dead last among the 50 states. As for services, New York ranks 47th in what residents get for the money, according to WalletHub. New York spends the most per public school student, but students perform worse by every measure than students in neighboring states. New York's roads rank 45th. The potholes and pavement roughness roughly cost the average New York driver, $715 a year in wear and tear, repairs, and fuel. You need a Sherman tank to navigate some of these roads. Why are New York taxpayers getting cheated? Start with the state's budget process, which led to the handshake deal. The procedure is more like a backroom poker game than a legislature doing the public's business. 3 people, the governor, Assembly Speaker, and Senate Majority Leader, together with a few staff members, haggle behind closed doors. No press, no public. Occasionally, a legislative committee chair is consulted. That means only Democrats. Republicans who are in the minority are completely frozen out. Lobbyists crowd the legislature's hallways and advocacy groups hold up signs. But no one is representing you and me, the taxpayer. Now that the deal is essentially brokered, lawmakers will be told to vote on it without time to even read it. They're scheduled to leave Albany by June the 6th and not return until 2025 when the budget cycle begins all again. Nice work. $142,000 a year for 61 days in session, and no follow-up on how tax dollars are spent. The results are predictably dismal. In 2023, the Empire State's economy barely grew. Now, New York's economy is predicted to fall to last place among all 50 states in the coming year, according to a new American Legislative Exchange Council report and economists Arthur Laffer and Steve Moore. And there's so many reasons for that. Think, to tie this in, think of what these court cases, specifically when it came to, what was it originally, $475 million fine for Trump, though what that does signals to big business. Why would they come here where if because of a political disagreement, they can have these type of attacks on them? I mean, that's just one of a million things. Retail theft, you name it. There's so many things that we can point to that are discouraging businesses from coming here or from staying here. What's to blame? The highest combined state and local tax burden of any state, as well as high workers' compensation costs and energy costs that eat away at a business's bottom line. These issues are fixable. Another fixable issue is New York's roads. A staggering 30% are in poor condition. Don't blame weather. New Hampshire spends roughly 1/3 as much per lane mile on road repairs as New York, but has mostly excellent roads. In 2022, Governor Hochul declared war on potholes and launched a $100 million a year Pave Our Potholes program. But MoneyGeek found that more spending on roads did not necessarily lead to better road quality. Check out union work rules for starters. More money also doesn't buy better schools. New York spends the most per student. Listen to this, a whopping $26,571, compared with the national average of $14,347. Hochul's proposed adjusting state aid because most districts outside the city have declining enrollment. But the pushback from teachers' unions and other groups was too much for a weak governor, and the idea was shelved till next year. Legislators should be insisting that state aid to a school district be contingent on improvements in test scores. If you hired a tutor for your own child and your child didn't learn anything, would you keep paying? New York lawmakers should also be investigating the huge cost of dual language classrooms. Nationally, only 3% of 12th graders in these classes graduate able to speak and read English. English proficiently, dooming many of them, dooming the rest to live in poverty, it says here. Taxpayer be damned attitude also explains why the state's Medicaid program is paying a mind-blowing 566,000 home health aides. In 2016, the state launched a program to pay family members to take care of loved ones at home instead of sending them to nursing homes or hiring strangers. Fair enough. But there's been no decline in nursing home enrollment, and it's implausible that more than 500,000 households need home health care. Hochul's budget deal puts all home care arrangements under one company's oversight, which might curb abuse in exchange for hiking what personal care workers get paid. It's a start. Tell Albany lawmakers their job is not to rubber stamp a budget with problems unsolved and go home. They need to ensure our hard-earned tax money is spent wisely before New York ranks dead last in everything. Well, we're pretty close as it is. I thought that was a wonderful piece to kind of put into perspective what we're dealing with the budget. She doesn't even address the issues, I think the real issues with public safety that lead a lot of, for instance, with the retail theft. If you want to talk about the economy, why would a business come here when you have rampant shoplifting? I just thought that was a great piece, and I wanted to bring that to you before we ran out of time on today's program. I know we have a lot of time left together, don't get me wrong. But we have a lot to get to as well when we talk with the sheriff. So, oh, by the way, yesterday, and I tie this in, the reason I said, by the way, Assemblyman Phil Palmisano will, of course, join us on the show when the budget is done, and we'll get everything, all the information from him. But yesterday, he was joined by Majority Leader Peoples Stokes, to raise awareness about the importance of organ and tissue donation. You know how near and dear this is to the Assemblyman's heart. We played a clip the other day from a little speech that he gave. We talked about it last time he was on the program. I mentioned that I put his op-ed, if you will, his column up on the WYDC-TV.com website. Well, this is what he had to say at the press conference. My sister Teresa had juvenile diabetes, which devastated her kidneys and her overall health. She received 2 kidney transplants in her life. once in 2000 from the kindness of a stranger, and once in 2006 when I had the privilege to donate a kidney to Teresa. So I've seen firsthand how organ donation can impact and improve the quality of life of a family. I tell people Teresa was a lucky one as she received 2 transplants. Although our donor enrollment numbers in New York State have improved over the years, we still have a long way to go. We can and must do better. One person can make a difference because just one person who donates at the time of their death can save up to 8 lives and impact the lives of up to 75 others through eye and tissue donation. We must continue our bipartisan efforts of working together to help raise awareness about the critical need for organ donation and implement smart policies which encourage and make it easier for people to join the registry and help save a life. So to find out more, you can go to donatelifenys.org. Excuse me. Hey, a couple other things. Man, I had so much to get to just quickly. I know. I don't want to rush around. Did you know? What did I do with the one? There was something here. Press release. Why? There it is. Since we're talking about press releases this morning, Congressman Nick Langworthy has introduced legislation to combat the use of artificial intelligence to create child sexual abuse material. I'll be the first to admit, I'm not well versed on AI. I know everybody talks about AI and the real dangers that are coming our way. Well, Congressman Langworthy introduced the Child Exploitation and Artificial Intelligence Expert Commission Act to address the creation of child sexual abuse material using artificial intelligence. This legislation would establish a commission to develop a legal framework that will assist law enforcement in preventing, detecting, and prosecuting AI-generated crimes against children. Representative Langworthy had this to say: the rapid growth of artificial intelligence poses unique challenges for protecting our children now and in the future as technology evolves. The Child Exploitation and Artificial Intelligence Expert Commission, created by this legislation, would bring together the foremost experts in the field to develop tools to effectively prevent, detect, and prosecute child exploitation crimes. This is just the first step to confront these challenges head-on and create a safer digital environment for the most vulnerable Americans. Now, specifically, some of the things that it would do, investigate and assess how artificial intelligence may be used to commit a child exploitation crime. Evaluate the ability to prevent, detect, and prosecute a child exploitation crime committed using artificial intelligence under the law in effect during the period of the evaluation of the commission. And finally, analyze the efficiency of the current legal framework to charge individuals suspected of using AI to create CSAM and recommend changes to the current statute. Okay, just wanted to pass that along to you, trying to give you all the breaking news this morning. I think that's enough for, well, one last New York issue, I guess. Just something to keep in the back of your mind. Did you know, I found this out on Empire Report this morning, that Ithaca has the youngest population in New York. Now, I'm sure you're saying that's no surprise, Frank. They have Cornell and Ithaca College and Tompkins Community College. But just something kind of interesting. Ithaca's metropolitan has a median age of 32.6. That's the median age of residents of Ithaca. That is significantly younger than the statewide, which is 39.77, and the U.S. median of 38.8. I found it interesting. All right, let's take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit here about Israel, so stay with us. Pardon me. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Attention twin-tier homeowners. Are you tired of paying too much for your energy bills? It's time you discover Koala Insulation of the Southern Tier, a premier insulation contractor. The professionals at Koala Insulation can give you a free, no-obligation insulation evaluation. It's one of the best home improvement investments you can make. Give us a call at 607-463-0616.
Discover Koala Insulation of Southern Tier. We are fully insured. Visit koalainsulation.com and find us near you. Hi, Adam.
And I'm Aubrey.
For over 40 years, the Blaze Alexander family dealerships have been making car buying easy, affordable, with respect for your time.
And we do that by treating all of our customers like family.
By making sure you get the lowest rates, biggest discounts, and most for your trade.
By providing clean, comfortable, and convenient service.
By offering the largest selection of new and pre-owned vehicles every day. Visit a Blaze Alexander family dealership,
where we're taking the deals the other guys won't.
Your wallet is always
is in danger. Criminals can hack your information without you even knowing. Introducing Slim Mint, an ultra-thin RFID blocking wallet that keeps your cards and cash protected. Slim Mint uses the latest RFID blocking technology to prevent thieves from stealing your info. It's ergonomically designed to optimize space and keep your belongings organized. With the auto-locking Slim Mint, your cards and money stay securely in place. It has a built-in cash clip and a flexible outer band to fit your additional cards and cash. Call or click now and get Slim Mint for just $29.99. Order in the next 5 minutes and you'll get an instant $10 discount. So it's only $19.99. But wait, due to rising costs, this may be your last chance to get Slim Mint at this low price. There's a strict limit of 3 Slim Mint wallets while supplies last. Don't wait, order now.
Call 1-800-654-6604. Call or visit slimmintwallet.com. So call 1-800-654-6604. Order now.
Welcome to Frankly Speaking, talking to the people that affect your life, that affect all of our day-to-day lives. This is something you're not going to get anywhere else. We've got a lot to offer. There'll be a lot of news, local, regional, national, really the things that affect you. And I think you'll be glad that you tuned in. So think of it as radio on TV. Frankly Speaking, live, 2 hours long, starting at 6 a.m. on WYDC TV Big Fox. This is... What'd you think of our new ad there? Expanded to 2 hours, Frankly Speaking. I'm so glad that you joined us this morning. Receiving this comment, as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio, this comment from a viewer: what would they talk about if Trump wasn't in the picture? He's been a top story every day ever since he came down the escalator, the golden escalator, nearly 9 years ago. If they're trying to make him go away, they aren't very good at it. It is, well, I don't think they necessarily want him to go away in that sense. They just wanted it to be always critical of him and of his supporters. I think there are some in the newsroom that realize, yes, we have probably saved our jobs for a little longer because this man decided to run for president. But I also think there's such a hatred there that does not stop them. I know I've had this conversation in the past that very often politics in the newsroom trumps, no pun intended, trumps financial considerations, that they believe that they're untouchable. Hey, they're CNN or they're NBC or they're ABC or whoever. Nothing's going to stop them. Nothing's going to bring them down. It was very much the attitude of the newspapers at one time, and we've seen where that has led. But in the news media, it's about pushing a political agenda more than it is giving you the news or being fair. Because, I mean, you can look at the headlines of just about any article on the mainstream TV outlets, the legacy outlets, I should say, and you can see how it is written in one way for Biden. It would be written for a completely different way for Trump. It becomes so glaringly obvious, the bias, after a while, that you almost forget to mention it. You almost forget to take it into consideration. It's almost, the bias is there. It's frustrating. It's why Republicans struggle so often during election season and like that to get the fair coverage. But I don't want to get into all that. I do want to talk a little bit more about the trial. The courtroom is dark today, and I guess Wednesdays will be that'll be typical during the what is expected to be 6-week trial. But yesterday was a big jury selection day. So far, 4 men and 3 women have been selected to serve on the jury that will ultimately consider the 34 counts. A man originally from Ireland who works in sales in New York City was appointed as a jury foreperson, who essentially serves as the panel spokesperson. Now, this is coming from CNN, and it's their takeaways from yesterday's day of trial. 5 of the 7 have a college degree or higher. 2 men on the panel are lawyers. All but 1 juror in panel Tuesday indicated they were aware Trump is facing charges in other criminal cases. The woman was the only one of the 18 jurors questioned who said she wasn't aware of other charges. Can you imagine? I don't think I'd admit that. But at least she's honest. Trump's lawyers scrutinized jurors' social media. That was awkward. Hearing some of the texts and some of the memes and things like that were shared. Because, listen, you get on jury duty. When you post something on social media, you're not thinking, hey, in 3 years, I'm going to be sitting in a courtroom having that that comment read aloud to the man I was talking about, and oh, by the way, that man happens to be the former president of the United States. Whether you like Trump or don't like Trump, I believe that would be a very awkward scenario. One had, and this is ironic, thinking that this person could have been selected as juror, had a lock him up meme on his Facebook. I don't know. There was a lot of back and forth on this. I think sometimes Merchant, which comes as no surprise, played a little bit on the liberal side in letting some of these people in, as compared to being a little conservative, thinking what it means if politically they're going out there and making statements about the former president at one time, or president at that time as well. Trump did get admonished, as I mentioned. That was saying that he was intimidating a potential juror because he was muttering something. Prosecutors focus on case with jurors while Trump's lawyers focus on Trump. Can you be realistic and not hold witnesses to unrealistic standards? Assistant District Attorney Joshua Steinglass asked. He said outright some witnesses have some edge, describing them as a tabloid publisher. What? Anyway. One man went back and forth with Blanche repeatedly while largely refusing to share his views on Trump, saying his views don't matter in the courtroom and that he could compartmentalize. Now, I've got to say, and you've heard me say this the last couple shows, you see the anger and the hate for Trump in many circles. You see people that are posting something as simple as posting on social media some very vile things. But you also see people that wanted to take him off the ballot, want to, like Bragg is doing with this case, unprecedented court cases, weaponizing the justice system. You've seen, since he went down to that viewer's point at the escalator, you've seen vicious attacks on him, and just a group of people that generally hate him. What's to say one of those people don't get called into this jury and say, no, I can be fair? Maybe they weren't that vocal on social media. I can be fair, knowing full well that they can't be fair, and that their hate of Trump would overcome any fairness. I think that's a question that needs to be asked, and I think that's why Trump's lawyers are focusing on that, to see and get to the bottom. Are you hiding? Are you a wolf in sheep's clothing? Are you hiding your bias, or could you be fair? Jury selection could end maybe by the end of this week. And I think that does it for the takeaways of yesterday's trial, hush money trial, day 2. I know the media is focused on it a lot. Are you focused on it a lot? I did not. I'll be honest. I did not expect to spend that much time on that this morning. But it is a major news story, and I have no problem doing that. But I don't know. I know the media really wants to talk about it. But is it something that you're going home or maybe at work listening to what's going on throughout the day? I'll pose that question to you. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of the program, Trump vows to straighten New York out while visiting the bodega where clerk Jose Alba was hit with murder charges for stabbing an ex-con in self-defense. Do you remember that story? I'm not going to say that's the first time Bragg was put on the radar, but that was one of the highlights that people pointed to, or low lights, I guess you would say, they pointed to with the job that Bragg does. Former President Donald Trump made a post-court visit to the Manhattan bodega where clerk Jose Alba infamously stabbed an ex-con to death in self-defense 2 years ago, a case that drew widespread outrage after he was initially charged with murder, with a city native vowing to, quote, this meaning Trump, kind of worded strange there, with Trump vowing to straighten New York out. You should be allowed to have a gun. If you had a gun, you'd never get robbed. You never get robbed. That would be the end of it, Trump told the bodega workers. Ahmed took the former president told the former president that the store is still grappling with rampant crime, which appeared to shock the law and order president. What do you do? Isn't it crazy? It's almost a way of doing business. You're getting robbed? Yeah, it really is in New York. That's why we talked about retail theft so often, especially in the city. Shoplifting is a part of doing business. Ahmed, who is the owner, I believe, of the store, Mahed Ahmed, said, I have never voted because I've been working, but this time I will. We need Donald Trump back in the White House because he's a strong guy. Ahmed said, an immigrant from Yemen and a U.S. citizen. What happened to Jose was very hard for me. Jose was defending himself from the guy who came behind the counter, all for $1 worth of chips. When asked by the Post how he would make bodegas safer, Trump said it would boil down to allowing the NYPD to do their jobs. Every week, they're being robbed 2 or 3 times. It's crazy. You know what? The police can stop it, but they have to be allowed to do their jobs. You have to stop crime, and we're going to let the police do their jobs. They've got to be given back their authority. We're making a big play, New York. I love this city, and it's gotten so bad in the last 3 years, 4 years, and we're going to straighten New York out. And then he said, Alvin Bragg does nothing. He goes after guys like Trump, who did nothing wrong. Violent killers and murderers. There are hundreds of murderers all over the city. They know who they are, and they don't pick them up. They go after Trump. We've got to take a short break. I think that was a very smart political move to have that kind of mini pop-up press conference there at that bodega to highlight a couple issues: safety in New York, public safety in general, as well as the failed policies of New York, as well as perhaps a questionable job that Bragg is doing. But we got to take a break. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Isn't your wellness important? Don't you want more energy? Now's the best time to make every day better and relieve those achy muscles and pains than with the Hesselsen's Hot Tub. Hesselsen's has hot tubs in stock and available for immediate delivery with unbelievable savings. Hesselsen's offers 0% interest-free financing for up to 5 full years. Hesselsen's carries the only hot tub brand in the industry with the exclusive freshwater salt system that is eco-friendly and easy to use and only enhances your hot tubbing experience. Come in today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselsen's hot tub. And remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselsen's.
Fox Wednesday, who will survive an epic night of Queen?
Under pressure. Oh.
Wow. Yo, you all right, Ken?
I'm just under pressure.
And in difficult times,
I received the worst news. I lost my #1 supporter.
a star will shine.
I'm a little emotional, to be honest. It was just beautiful. That was really pretty.
Tonight. Is this the start of a dynasty?
Ryan Blaney is a NASCAR Cup Series champion.
A redemption tour?
Ready to go to work.
Is this the face of a ruthless competitor or a villain?
I'd be your favorite driver.
Is it time for a breakthrough? Let's go! To get back to breaking stuff? Or is this the makings of the wildest ride you'll ever witness? It's all of the above, and it's about to go down. Any questions?
Broadcasting live from the Hesselsen studio. I'm your host, Frank Acom. This is Frankly Speaking. Rich Lowry has a piece at the New York Post, and talk about completely changing topics this morning. Why do critics hold Israel to a higher standard and ignore these other conflicts? And he goes through to show conflicts throughout the world and asks the question, like the headline reads, why is Israel held to a higher standard? It's a really good piece. We're not going to have time. As I mentioned, Sheriff Allard's going to join us in the next hour, so we've got a lot to get to. I'm not going to have a chance to go through the whole piece. I'd highly recommend it, though. If you have an opportunity, it is at the New York Post. Again, why do critics hold Israel to a higher standard and ignore these other conflicts? Now, Michael Goodwin says, hit the mullahs and hit them hard, Israel. Joe Biden's timid advice for restraint notwithstanding, there's zero doubt that Israel will retaliate against Iran. The Mad Mullahs attack last weekend aimed to kill thousands of Israelis, and they got no discount just because they failed miserably. Even though John Kirby's trying to say, well, I know President Biden said don't, but they kind of didn't, if you think about it, because they weren't successful. Well, a lot of waving outside. You can tell the weather's changed a little bit. Iran's terrorist leaders must be taught a painful and public lesson, one that will deter them from soon taking on Israel directly again. It will also clarify for their proxies just how weak their patron is. As the debate in Israel's war cabinet continues over its response, it's helpful from a distance to grasp the significance of what happened last weekend. First, Iran was unmasked as a third-rate military power. Basically proved their incompetence. The mullahs aimed to overwhelm Israel's defense system and kill enormous numbers of people by launching more than 300 drones and missiles, yet they scored 0 hits. Let that sink in, 0. Most of the drones were shot down, and some missiles reportedly exploded on their launch pads. Overall, Iran's military proved to be better on paper than in action, which helps explain why it relies so heavily on its terror proxies to do its dirty work. The proxies are cheap and expendable and don't involve funerals of dead Iranians. Second, much of Iran's failure stems from the technologically superiority of Israel and the U.S. No defense system in modern warfare ever produced such a lopsided outcome, and the results are sure to spur a new defensive arms race. The football cliche that defense wins championships now has a national security section to it. Fortunately, Ronald Reagan understood as much 40 years ago, and his 1983 plan that the media mocked as Star Wars, yes, remember that, the media mocked him as Star Wars, said it was a joke, has grown into America's life-saving strategic defense initiative. Third, Biden deserves enormous credit for deploying and using military assets as our ships and aircraft destroyed Iranian weapons. It marked the first time the U.S. publicly or played an actual military role, in defending Israel, which is ironic given Biden's frequent public criticism of Benjamin Netanyahu. Fourth, France and Britain also helped, and the successful coordination of the Western powers with the Israeli military is a game changer in the Mideast. This remarkable teamwork is a force multiplier that adds another layer of deterrence. Fifth is the significance of two Arab militaries, Jordan and Saudi Arabia, helping to defend the Jewish state. This is history being written before our eyes. While it's true that Jordan and the Saudis have long feared Iran, Hamas and Hezbollah more than Israel, the fact that they publicly acted on the interest offers great promise for regional military and economic security. Unfortunately, Biden's warning to Netanyahu to take the win and not retaliate shows he has relapsed into the Obama-Biden dream world of treating the mullahs with kid gloves. The aim, as it has been since Obama took office in 2009, has been to bribe and sweet-talk Iran back into the mainstream of nations. Election year hopes for peace also play a role in the White House thinking. But appeasement never works, and even worse, has served to convince Iran that it will pay no price for spreading terrorism throughout the region. Now, we know about the cash and the things like that. But basically, yeah, I know I'm running late. Ultimately, the Holy Grail would be a retaliation. We'll wrap it up here. Ultimately, the Holy Grail would be a retaliation that sparks a public uprising against the mullahs, leading at least to regime change, if not an open democracy. Bombs away, says Michael Goodwin. Another good piece at the New York Post. All right, let's take our last break for this hour. As I mentioned, Sheriff Allard will be our guest in the next hour, so don't forget. That's coming up. Don't get your last minute questions into that number on the bottom of the screen, and we will be right back after this.
It's time to stock up on your favorite New York wines at GCP Discount Liquors and Wines in Horseheads. GCP Discount Liquors and Wines has the largest selection of Finger Lakes wines in the Southern Tier, all under one roof. Whether you're looking for Lakewood, Wagner, Wise, or Haslett 1852 Vineyards, GCP Discount Liquors and Wines is your convenient one-stop shop for these great wineries and more, all at the area's lowest prices. Shop GCP Discount Liquors and Wines in Horseheads, the best in service, selection, and price.
The competition is over.
Fox Thursday.
One Japanese bento box.
It's every chef.
How'd you do a sushi roll with no rice?
I don't know.
For themselves.
One more thing.
3 people going into elimination. This is insane.
An all-new Next Level Chef. Then on an all-new Farmer Wants a Wife, some say goodbye.
I'm gonna miss you.
And some say hi to family.
How soon do you feel like you guys are ready to have kids?
Oh my God.
Can I tell you who my favorite is?
Who? Tomorrow.
The Fox Sports app isn't just any sports app. It's your sports app. Yeah, yours. Your teams. Your highlights. Your scores. Your stories. Just choose your favorites to get more of what you want.
To the end zone!
And of course, stream your teams live. The best part is free with your pay TV subscription.
We are back, frankly speaking, wrapping up the first hour together as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. Thank you so much for joining us. Back to the issue of Israel, and this is something we mentioned yesterday and got a lot of response from you, many of you viewers, which is, why are these kids, it's not just kids, why are these people not getting in any type of trouble when they shut down bridges in protest because they are anti-Israel, pro-Hamas. Alicia Lee Ban, an Iranian-American attorney and activist, said it started with "we must support Hamas, stop making it something it's not," as though this was perfectly acceptable on its own. Then when the Red Sea attacks happened, it soon grew into "get you a friend like Yemen, turn another ship around," failing to address the Houthis by their appropriate title and instead conflating them with Yemen's government. That was strike two. Not much later, we heard vocal support for Hezbollah firing rockets into northern Israel, celebrated as resistance. That's strike three. All of Iran's main proxies. Now they cry for Iran's ayatollahs to attack Israel. These protesters, quote unquote, are romanticizing terror, romanticizing terrorists. A generation of TikTok-educated so-called leftists and progressives turned their support towards the Islamic Republic as they cheered on from the safety of New York and London. A series of rockets that did nothing except seriously injured a 7-year-old girl. Was this the win from the axis of resistance that they had thrown their weight behind? They are celebrating the same regime that systematically murders and flogs women for showing their hair, much less engaging in celebratory TikTok dances online. The only word one can think to describe this generation of leftists is lost. Completely lost. I've long wondered what it could be that so seamlessly targeted and programmed the radical left in such a way that it now supports fascistic authoritarian regimes. One obvious answer is how Western academic institutions have become a hotbed for Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps propaganda, framing these oppressive regimes as the good guys fighting Western imperialism. It's just their culture and other such racist charges that presume Middle East folk know better than savagery, and the world should just accept us at that level. How else can you really believe that women want to be oppressed, to be forced to wear the hijab, to be robbed of education? At a deeper level, though, it's more than that. These talking points would never work on an intellectual populace. Instead, I fear that we're witnessing an excess of privilege. And I think this is a good point. I fear we are dealing with a generation that is so removed from suffering, oppression, war, and tyranny that they've grown bored with our rights, freedoms, and privileges. I could not agree more with that statement. The idea that we've gotten fat and happy, so to speak. That they're so removed from suffering, oppression, war, and tyranny that they've grown bored with our rights, freedoms, and privileges. What a wonderful point. And to that point, it's very often when, someone said something that offended me, that's the worst offense that could ever happen. That's akin to violence. That's what she's talking about here. Just living such a cushy life that they're bored with our rights, freedoms, and privileges. They don't understand how crude, insensitive, and frankly dangerous it is to champion this type of violence. Instead, they fantasize about nation states clashing with each other in the Middle East so they can live vicariously through the rush of excitement. I don't know if they'll stop until they entirely corrode our democracy. What a great point. Again, that's a piece by Elise Laban. Stay with us. First hour of Frankly Speaking is through. We've got Sheriff Allard coming up in just a moment. We will be right back after this.
Dear Triathlon, let's splash through rushing rivers, take on iconic trails, and race straight to the top. What's the point of winning if you can't kick back and enjoy the view? Yours, Toyota SUVs.
Lease an all-wheel drive RAV4 for just $329 a month. Or lease an all-wheel drive Highlander for $439 a month. Find yours at Toyota.com. Toyota. Let's go.
Friends have been friends about Colonial Penn Guaranteed Acceptance Whole Life Insurance for more than 50 years. And with good reason. If you're between the age of 50 and 85, it's a sure thing. Your acceptance is guaranteed because full benefits are not paid in the first 2 years. And the price? Options start at $9.95 a month, less than 35 cents a day. With Colonial Penn, your rate is another sure thing. It will never increase. And you should know this coverage can last a lifetime.
Call today, 1-800-475-1050.
welcome to the 7 o'clock hour of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I am your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. If you missed the first hour, you missed a lot, but I do have a couple highlights. Sheriff Jim Allard will be our guest in just a little bit, and I haven't reminded you about this. Oh, and you can get your questions in for the sheriff too, by the way. It's not too late. I'll try to read those live on the air as well, so keep them coming in. Thank you to all the waves already this morning. I do appreciate that. We had an interview not that long ago with Robbie Nichols, but I wanted to remind you that coming up is the Hot Stove Dinner. It's this Friday, 5:30 is a VIP meet and greet. 6:35 is the dinner. That's with Bucky Dent. That's going to be a lot of fun. Tickets just $50 per event, and you can call that number or email there to find out more. So I didn't want you to, it's easy to forget that it's already going to be April 19th. So mark your calendars and get your tickets before it's too late. Okay. Back to the protesters that we talked about, and I like the theory. I don't like it, but I mean, I agree with the theory from the last piece that we had mentioned from Elisa Laban, who said that really these people that are protesting in anti-Semitic ways, protesting anti-Israel, shutting down bridges and like that, they become so, I use the term, the old saying, fat and happy, but they're not used to any kind of suffering, any kind of issues, any kind of really troubles whatsoever. So they're almost in a very sick way looking towards, well, getting away from our freedoms, our rights, our privileges. And isn't that what it really goes back to at the beginning of the show, going when we first started back in March of last year? It was about getting back together as a community. People are losing faith and in their government and in their communities and in patriotism. Isn't that what this is all about? I fear we are dealing with a generation, excuse me, that is so removed from suffering, oppression, war, and tyranny that they've grown bored with our rights, freedoms, and privileges. They don't understand how crude, insensitive, and frankly dangerous it is to champion this type of violence. Instead, they fantasize about nation states clashing with each other in the Middle East so they can live vicariously through their rush of excitement. I don't know if they'll stop until they entirely corrode our democracy. So that's how we ended the last hour. And I'd like to hear your take on that. Now, the New York Post editorial board says, sorry, it's that time of year, folks. Politicians who let these lunatic protesters tie up the nation's traffic are just as bad as them. America is plagued with some truly disturbed people who think they have the right to screw up fellow citizens by tying up the nation's traffic, and even more inexcusably, to defend Middle East butchers and lob anti-Semitic smears against Israel. Worse, the political leaders who let them get away with it. On Monday, barely a day after the terrorist state of Iran launched a dangerous attack on the Jewish state, anti-Israel goons wreaked havoc at the Brooklyn Bridge, California's Golden Gate Bridge, Chicago's O'Hare Airport, as well as Seattle, Philadelphia, and elsewhere. How many people missed a flight, couldn't get a doctor's appointment, or were delayed to some other critical event because of their selfishness? Pardon me. Yes, I mean, you think about the safety indication. We've talked about those stories in the past where ambulances is not able to get through, things like that. So the implications there when it comes to safety. Their supposed goal, besides making themselves feel virtuous, is to pressure Team Biden to end support for Israel. The idea, of course, that imposing misery on fellow Americans can accomplish that is as bat crazy as their support for the terrorists. Make no mistake, many of these protesters were openly backing Iran and its terrorist pawns, Hezbollah and Hamas. They shouted things like, "We love Hezbollah." They waved group banners. This is the same Hezbollah that launches rockets into civilian neighborhoods in northern Israel. They wore bandanas supporting Hamas, the same savages who raped, butchered, and kidnapped innocent civilians in Israel and who promote the deaths of fellow Palestinians and then blame the Jewish state for it. The biggest head scratcher, supposedly anti-war protesters who praised Iran's attack on Israel, even though it could trigger a massive region-wide war. They burned the American flag, a right granted to them by the very country they despise. Try burning Iran's flag in Iran. Sure, every country has its sickos, yet America's leaders simply tolerate the enormous pain these lunatics inflict on others with their antics. And that was the argument we made yesterday, and we had a viewer make it as well. Why is nothing ever done about this? I know there was a guy that was complaining online because he actually got in trouble for taking part in graffiti in the subways, anti-Israel graffiti, and he was whining, not knowing. I didn't know graffiti could get you in trouble. Well, and that's why many of these people would never expect to get arrested. They know that politicians, many with the same feelings that they have, are going to protect them. And you look at specifically in New York with the bail reform laws and things like that, very little, if any, punishment. And no, blocking roadways is not permissible free speech. True. Some do get arrested, but many are instantly released and suffer virtually no consequences. The slaps on the wrist ensure more intense pain down the road until America's leaders crack down for real once and for all, imposing hefty fines and prison sentences. Sane Americans will continue to suffer. And that's the biggest problem in all this. You've seen the stories. The poor man or woman that's been working all day just wants to get home, and now their already long commute is even longer. Maybe they don't have anybody to watch the kids. Maybe they were going to a doctor's appointment or flight. We brought the story to you yesterday where people are ditching their rental cars and starting to walk to the airport in hopes that they can make their flights in time. I got a couple of other quick things on this. I do have to take a short break because I want to get some of these breaks not out of the way, but get the breaks staggered in a way that gives us as much time as possible with Sheriff Aller. So stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Isn't your wellness important? Don't you want more energy? Now's the best time to make every day better and relieve those achy muscles and pains than with the Hesselsen's Hot Tub. Hesselsen's has hot tubs in stock and available for immediate delivery with unbelievable savings. Hesselsen's offers 0% interest-free financing for up to 5 full years. Hesselsen's carries the only hot tub brand in the industry with the exclusive freshwater salt system that is eco-friendly and easy to use and only enhances your hot tubbing experience. Come in today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselsen's hot tub. And remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselsen's.
Wow, you found it.
I did.
The History of Water Part 6? I've been dying to read this.
I know, honey.
I always wanted that book.
At Culligan, we get that most people don't think about water like we do, and that's okay. You see, when we install one of our high-efficiency water softeners, we're thinking about hard water and limescale buildup, so you can just think about longer-lasting appliances and softer skin and hair. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
You learn pretty fast that there are no shortcuts in racing or in life. So it's no surprise that there aren't any when it comes to hair loss either. One of my first attempts to deal with my own hair loss was a literal shortcut. Thankfully, my wife found Hair Club. I thought that nobody could understand how mortified I was to be losing my hair. So you can imagine how relieving it was to know that Hair Club's experts have already helped so many people with their hair loss. I was shocked that Hair Club had virtually every solution possible. If I had known about Hair Club sooner, I never would have tried any of those overhyped advertised solutions.
With over 120 locations, Hair Club is North America's largest provider of complete hair loss solutions. Whether you choose surgical, non-surgical, or restorative solutions, Hair Club has you covered.
If you're determined to get your hair back and live the life you deserve, just call Hair Club. You can get your own free personalized consultation with a hair loss expert and be on your way to the finish line in no time.
Scan the code on your screen now to schedule a free consultation and save 20% on select solutions using promo code Frankie.
Shell Missy face off in
Why can't we watch DuckTales? Because we don't learn anything.
Book Smarts versus Street Smarts.
Is it working? Are you feeling motivated? Very.
It's the Battle of Twins.
Life is so confusing. I always hoped it would be easier for me when I grew up. It's gonna be all right. You were faking. Bazinga.
Young Sheldon. Weeknights at 6:30 on Big
And we are back, frankly speaking, here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselsen studio. We've been talking about these protesters, these anti-Israel, really pro-terrorist protesters shutting down bridges and highways. The New York Post says anti-Israel protesters think they are making a bold political statement, but they're really just making everyone angry. According to Pew Research Center, this number is shocking, even though it is low, but it's shocking. Only 22% of Americans believe Hamas's reason for fighting Israel are in any way valid. 22% is way too high. Just 5% believe that Iran-funded radical terrorist organization's brutal October 7th assault on Israel was, quote, acceptable. It boggles the mind that the infantile narcissists blocking our nation's roads and bridges can possibly imagine that even Americans concerned with humanitarian issues in Gaza would feel in any way good about mass disruption of their daily routines, including commutes to work and school, to accommodate a political message that strikes most of us as pro-terrorist. Enough is enough. Blue cities have let these morons get away with too much for too long. After San Francisco police in December arrested 80 protesters who blocked the San Francisco-Oakland Bay Bridge to demand a Gaza ceasefire, city prosecutors let them off if they promised to do 5 hours of community service. Think of the cost, the effects on people's lives. Maybe something as minor as being late for work or coming home from work, but also the ambulances that couldn't get in. Or imagine you missed your flight with the cost of flights. Politicians there and in Chicago and in New York should instead look at Florida, where such nonsense is not permitted. In Miami-Dade County, 7 miscreants, oh, good word, who blocked a boulevard were booked on charges that will likely send them to jail. Everywhere else, they should be kicked. How about this one? This is the president of the Palm Beach Freedom Institute, Paul DeQuanoy, said everywhere else, they should be kicked from the river to sea. Yeah, it is mind-blowing that but this isn't even new. It's not even just with the anti-Israel protests. How many times have we seen this in the past over many different issues? Here's a comment from a viewer. Again, I can't wrap my head around this and can't understand why they wouldn't be considered insurrectionists. This is not only dangerous and outrageous, but with few consequences, we are emboldening this behavior, and we have no leaders who care to do a thing about it. Yeah, you're right. I think because, well, they're looking at it as a certain voting bloc they must want. They don't want these protesters to turn on them. I'm not sure. I see obviously no upside to allowing this to continue. And yes, I know they shut it down in New York, but there's no consequences. But then again, I don't want to tie this into a completely different topic, but is it really completely different? When you have Carl Hasty saying that stricter penalties are not a deterrent, what do we expect when we see things like this? What do we expect when you have these, well, as the one person said in the New York Post, these privileged people that protest knowing that they will not get any type of punishment. Here's a comment. You know the protesters don't really believe that Iran and their terrorist proxies are good people and Americans are bad, or they would leave this horrible, racist, evil country and go live in the Middle East. It's fun to disrupt people, break stuff, and set things on fire, especially when they face no consequences and are praised as woke, concerned citizens of the world. You're exactly right. And that's what it kind of boils down to with that New York Post piece that we had as well. But yeah, they can take their TikTok videos, they can post their footage of them protesting and showing they care the most. They're the most woke. They're the most concerned citizens of the world. And their friends give them all the likes and the shares, and wow, you really did something there. When really they were out just to break stuff and start fires. You're exactly right. Disrupt people. Be the center of attention, because you are the center of the attention at that point. If you're shutting down a bridge, you are going to be on a very big stage at that point. So yes, obviously I don't even think, Ken, and that's a great comment. Thank you. I don't even think they realize how some of the sick actions of Iran and their proxies, I don't even think they realize, like the one piece said, some of the laws and rules in countries like this. It's just about finding the most shocking thing. Do you recall not that long ago where there's younger people on TikTok sharing speeches from Osama bin Laden about how bad this country was and saying, wow, saying what I thought and this type of thing. So I think it is to really be shocking, to pick that cause that's, kind of in their mind, and I don't believe it is, but in their mind, kind of the punk rock idea, right? Oh, this will really upset my parents, or this will really upset the establishment if I come out as for all intents and purposes, pro-terrorist. And I don't know how you can look at many of these protesters, because I would say if someone's out there and they're concerned because they're reading the media's reports or they're listening to Biden and they're saying, I'm concerned about what's happening in Gaza. Okay. If they are concerned, I don't see them joining up and being reasonable about it, if you can be, joining up with groups like this. This is just the people that want to be, again, the most shocking, the most outraged, the most, as Ken mentioned, woke. Yeah, so that is a very, very good point. Let's see. Well, I gotta move along here. I think the sheriff's going to be in here in a minute, but back to another, as I mentioned just quickly, an anti-Israel protester and New York Times freelancer was busted for subway graffiti, then goes on X to whine that he had no idea it was illegal. I sincerely didn't know graffiti in the subway, which I see all the time, was an arrestable offense. But I also can't believe our tax dollars go to cops focusing on minor infractions, as he participated in graffiti, or however you want to word that, saying, I think it was something about ceasefire, free Palestine. But again, kind of ironic, a New York Times freelancer busted for subway graffiti. I had no idea. Well, I mean, I guess in his defense, why would you think anything's punishable in New York State at this point? Why would you think anything would get you any kind of punishment? So that is, I guess you really can't blame him for his ignorance on that. I don't think we're going to have an opportunity to talk about it because the sheriff will be in shortly. But Mike Johnson, the fresh revolt against Mike Johnson. What is your thoughts on it? Will it be successful? Are you disappointed? I'd love to hear from you. Get your questions in for the sheriff who's walking in right now. We'll take a short break. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking.
Coons sit and sleep in Corning. Hey, did you know that Coons has been in business since 1955? Wow, that's going on 70 years. And did you know that Coons is still family owned and operated? Really? That's 3 generations. Way to go, Steve. Did you also know that their salespeople are non-commissioned and they offer delivery and financing? That's awesome. So why do they want you to shop and compare then? Because they are confident that you won't find a better deal.
Guaranteed.
Coons sit and sleep in Corning.
Shop and compare.
At Simmons Rockwell Nissan, lease a brand new 2024 Nissan Rogue SV all-wheel drive for only $399 a month for 36 months. Make car buying simple. Drive your deal at Simmons Rockwell Nissan in Horse.
If you're on supplemental oxygen, heavy and awkward tanks are a burden. Now you can leave home and leave the tanks behind with Inogen One, the portable oxygen concentrator you can take almost anywhere.
With this little device, now I'm able to do the things that I've always loved. I just press the button here, and there's my oxygen.
The Inogen One is so small and light, you're free to leave the house without the hassles of an oxygen tank.
I could play golf again. I could go grocery shopping. I'm free again.
With the Inogen, I can handle my own oxygen. I can carry my own oxygen. I go anywhere with this. Look how small it is.
And right now, you can try an Inogen One for 30 days completely risk-free. Give us a call right now. If you qualify, we'll send you an Inogen system to use for 30 days completely risk-free. Your insurance may even cover your new Inogen One system.
If you're on oxygen, you need to be using an Inogen.
Call 1-800-929-7290. Again, that's 1-800-929-7290.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio, and in that studio we have Sheriff Jim Aller. Good morning.
Good morning. It's a beautiful day in Steuben County.
It always is, and we have so much. Speaking of Steuben County, that's a good segue. Let's talk about, we mentioned the media release yesterday, but I'll be honest, it's a little confusing, right? Because a lot of people are trying to play catch up. If they missed one of the updates on this, they're a little behind. So I was hoping you could kind of give us an update and where we're at today.
Sure. So in September of 2023, Steuben County Legislature passed two completely unprecedented resolutions. No other county in the state had ever passed them. One was to take away my indemnification, which is the guarantee that the county will provide me legal defense in any lawsuit that's generated because of my duties. And the other one was to try and, cause me to purchase my own liability insurance, millions of dollars of liability insurance. And they used an archaic law to justify it, which had nothing to do with insurance. So I filed through my attorney, I filed with New York State Supreme Court to try and get a stay of these, again, unprecedented resolutions.
Oh, you're okay. I'm off camera now.
No, and that was immediately issued by the court, a stay. So I'm still indemnified today. The county hired another, I can't remember how many firms they hired, but the firm they're with now is Coughlin Gerhardt out of Binghamton to defend them in the stay hearing, the Article 78 hearing. And as soon as they hired them, they repealed the insurance one. Again, it wasn't even based in any kind of reasonable reading of the law. So that one went away. They quietly did that. So we went to our first hearing, and I had been hearing things from people that were in the room when they did this, that there was some threats made and some coercion, possible coercion, and that there was some discussion of trying to affect the political process regarding my office. So we appealed to the court to be able to depose a legislator in a closed, sealed setting, strictly for the court, so that the court could get the information that I had heard. And the court granted that. The county attempted to appeal that.
What is this costing?
My best estimate is over $100,000 in legal fees that the county has wasted on this.
I mean, I didn't mean to interrupt, but it's like, why? What's the end game?
I
don't understand.
No one seems to know. No one seems to know. But so that went to the appellate court, which is a 5-judge panel. They reviewed the county submission, they reviewed my attorney's submission, and denied the motion for appeal. So now it goes back to state Supreme Court, where we'll get a timeline to depose the legislator. And then we'll have our final hearing, and the judge will determine whether or not it was legal, and whether or not it was done in bad faith, and whether or not there were significant violations of the open meeting law, which led to it. And he'll make a ruling based on the information before him.
Well, and that's what's interesting, because remember when this first started breaking, and I had mentioned this on the air too, that's what made people maybe perhaps the most upset. That not only two things: one, that you're elected, right? So that's so separate. So people are upset about that, but also that everything was done behind closed doors.
And that's still occurring. Tomorrow or Thursday. Yeah, tomorrow. It's so early in the morning. I don't know.
I say you're preaching to the choir.
There's a meeting of what they established at the same time. The legislature established their own investigative committee to investigate whatever they wanted to investigate. And that has a meeting tomorrow, and I guarantee you that will all be in executive session, so no one will know what it's about, what it pertains to, who they're targeting now. I'm guessing it's probably either me or the district attorney. That seems to be consistent.
The lucky guess.
Yes, the two elected officials seem to be the ones that draw the short straws.
I just don't understand it. I know you don't have the answer, and no one out there has the answer, or maybe somebody. I don't see why you take this fight on, what the end game is. It really is. I know I mentioned before, but it was really a weird version of defund the police.
It was, they're tying it all to liability and that supposedly I'm so haphazard out there that I'm creating all of this liability for the county. But from what I've been able to get from people that were in the room is that there was significant discussion about trying to influence me not to run again.
Oh, that didn't work.
No, that didn't work.
Might have had the opposite effect, actually.
Well,
well, we're going to talk about that. But there is no timeline then right now.
No, we have to switch everything back to Supreme Court and get another order from the judge to do the deposition and then an order for the hearing.
And not to be dead horse, but this is costing us, the taxpayers, money to continue this fight. Yeah, a lot of money.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Well, if anybody knows the answer, they can reach out. I'll have you on the air because no one, I don't think anybody can answer. But we mentioned, and I want to get into the re-election, but what has been the reaction to all of this? Because I know you went out and got petitions.
I did.
Has the reaction been pretty
It's been
overwhelming?
super positive.
Yeah.
It's so the overwhelming reaction is we see what they're trying to do to you, and we're with you.
Oh, that's great.
And what are they thinking? Why are they doing this?
Right.
And again, I have no answer.
Everybody's dumbfounded.
Yeah, I have no answer to it. I had a meeting with a couple of the legislators, and the statement was made, well, we have no problem with your performance. And I said, well, then what are we doing here?
Yeah. Then why are you wasting my time? Because it's your time that's being wasted.
Money.
And money, of course.
Yeah.
And I mean, you have other things I don't want to speak for you, but you'd rather be focusing on than this.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, than playing silly kid games.
Yeah. And now we mentioned petitions. So I had Joe Semplinsky on the other day, and he has a theory, and we talked about it. You actually enjoy doing petitions, don't you?
I do.
Yeah, he says
I do.
That's his thought, that you actually enjoy the process. How'd it go?
It went real good.
Yeah.
I think we got 1,800 Republican signatures all told with the committees and everything, and 100 conservative signatures.
Oh, wow.
So I can run on both lines. But again, for me, it's enjoyable to go out and talk to folks when they're relaxed.
Yeah.
One-on-one.
Oh, yeah.
And, it's not like they're having to come to a meeting and raise their hand and they can be, I'm going to knock all your
I know, I'm looking at it. Going to lock up the fine china.
But they get to ask questions
Yeah.
in a one-on-one setting and voice opinions and share with you their perspective and their perceptions on what's going on, and not only to do with the legislature, but across New York State,
right?
And the silly laws that we have,
which we're going to talk about,
and the way that our public safety has declined due to those laws, and it's honestly, it's very reaffirming that the general public gets it, and they see it, and they seem to know a whole lot more than the folks that are making the rules.
That's for sure.
And it's very reassuring and reaffirming to know that here in Steuben County, folks support their police. They support what we do, and they want to be safe.
Right. And that's what it boils down to. That's why it's kind of like inflation. When they tell us it's not that bad, but you experience it, it's the same with public safety, right?
Yeah.
So they tell us, no, the statistics show, and then we go, wait a minute. I think what we're seeing and what we're feeling, and heaven forbid, people we know are feeling, the public safety is number one or number two in voters' minds.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it's nice to hear that, knowing that in a way that the media and the talking heads aren't getting to the people. The people are smarter than they get credit for by the media.
They're a lot smarter than they get credit for. Yeah.
So the petition, that's a lot of signatures, but you had pretty nice weather.
I mean, there were some crappy days, but the day of the Hornell parade was beautiful.
Oh yeah,
that worked out great, and we were out every night for that month of March.
Yeah.
I didn't take a day off. Every night.
Really?
I would get done with work, change, and go out. And for 2 or 3 hours every night.
Well, and because you have to get a lot of signatures.
I have to get 1,000.
You do have to get 1,000.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
They don't make it easy.
No. So I tried with my little group.
Yeah.
We try to get 1,000. Then whatever the committees get.
Yeah.
Is insurance.
Yeah, just a kind of bonus.
Yeah.
Now, just to give people the background, there's no opponent.
Not that I've heard.
Yeah, not that I've heard. And I think it would have to be in now, unless it's an independent, I suppose.
Right.
That's a weird system. But
yes, it is.
You don't find out until, July or something crazy?
Yeah.
So that's good. Is there a way that people can still help your campaign?
Absolutely. I mean, the big thing is voice your opinion.
Sure.
And be active in county government. And don't fall for the behind closed doors Wizard of Oz stuff.
Right.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Exactly.
But yeah, be active and ask questions. As far as my campaign too, excuse me, obviously we always take donations, but one of the things that I'm really involved in right now is our Sheriff's Foundation, which is a 501c3 tax-free or tax place that you can donate to and get a tax break for. And what that does is solely support training and equipment for the members of the Sheriff's Office.
That's great.
Outside of what the county can afford. And we've used that. Almost every canine we have has gone through the foundation, through donations raised on that. The entire memorial park is due to donations we raised or through the golf. We have a golf tournament every year where we raise money for the memorial park. That's all been paid for. So we try to pay for as much of the specialized equipment we need out of the foundation as we can. And if somebody needs to go to North Carolina for specialized training, quite often the foundation foots that bill. So,
well, getting your monthly news release, there's always training. You're always, I mean, you guys don't sit on your,
and we've had this discussion before, but training breeds professionalism. Yeah. And without training, you don't get professionalism. And our guys are out there by themselves, closest backup, 20, 30 minutes away, whatever tool we can provide them to make them have a better chance of survival.
Right.
It's worth the investment.
Going back, before we take a break, going back to the court case, how did that affect morale behind the scenes in the Sheriff's Office?
Well, I think when you couple that with when the deputies went to arbitration, and then they threatened to appeal the arbitration award and instead settled, I think in the back of a lot of the deputies' minds was they're doing this to us to get at the sheriff.
Yeah.
Which is a horrible thing. It's a shameful thing and should have never occurred. And, I think that, so I've been sheriff for 8 years. I've had 0 grievances from either union based on my actions. I have a great working relationship with our people.
Right.
Again, we're a family. And the only grievances we've had is because of the way things are paid or downtown stuff, as we call it.
Yeah.
So I think that there's an effort to try and sow some sort of discord within those groups as it relates to me maintaining the office of sheriff.
And I don't understand it because I guess that's going to be what I keep saying about everything here, but you're in the need for more law enforcement. So, okay, let's say this is about you that just don't like you personally somehow. They got to think about the future too and the unintended consequences of what this does for law enforcement.
Yeah. So it definitely affects recruitment.
I'm sure.
I mean, if you're looking at, do I go to the sheriff's office or do I go to XYZPD?
Yeah.
And XYZPD isn't in the news every other week because the governing body's trying to take out the chief or the sheriff. Well, that does affect people's choices of where they want to go.
There's be no doubt. I mean, because this has been a headache for you specifically, but I'm sure a headache for the people behind the scenes.
It is.
If nothing else, just have to explain what's going on to everybody all the time.
Well, yeah, because that's the same questions you're asking today. We get out in the public. Why are they doing this? Why is this going on? And again, I say there's no rational explanation that I can find.
No. All right, we got to take a break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
Aaron's Heating and Air Conditioning in Corning, New York is a local veteran-owned and operated company with over 25 years experience. Trust the experts at Aaron's Heating and Air Conditioning for all of your HVAC needs.
It's hard to stop a train.
Tired of that pan that always sticks? It's so scratched and worn, you can't cook in it.
Hi, Chef Daniel Green here with my new hammered pans from Gotham Steel. This complete 9-piece set is guaranteed to beautify your kitchen like never before. Hammered pans are ultra non-stick and they're even oven safe up to 500 degrees. So bake homemade chicken pot pie or this whole chicken dinner. Use metal beaters straight in the pan for a gourmet souffle that slips right out. Plus the entire set is dishwasher safe and PFOA free. free.
Get the full 9-piece Gotham Steel hammered set for just 5 payments of $49.99, and we'll even ship it to you free. But order now and we'll drop 1 payment. That's just 4 payments of $49.99. Plus, we'll include this free steamer and strainer, and our 5-piece bakeware set with every pan you'll ever need to make delicious breads, cakes, and desserts. That's a huge 15-piece set with free shipping. Call or click now.
Call 1-800-608-1538 or go to buyhammered.com.
Fox Wednesday. Who will survive an epic night of Queen?
Under pressure. Oh.
Wow. Yo, you all right, Ken?
I'm just under pressure.
And in difficult times,
I received the worst news. I lost my #1 supporter.
a star will shine.
I'm a little emotional, to be honest. It was just beautiful. That was really pretty.
Tonight.
Welcome to Frankly Speaking, talking to the people that affect your life, that affect all of our day-to-day lives. This is something you're not going to get anywhere else. We've got a lot to offer. There'll be a lot of news, local, regional, national, really the things that affect you. And I think you'll be glad that you tuned in. So think of it as radio on TV.
Frankly Speaking.
Live, 2 hours long, starting at 6 a.m. on WYDC TV Big Fox. This is Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. Our brand new 2-hour commercial aired. You're on that commercial, you know.
I saw that.
Yeah. So you get some extra bonus airtime. I've got a couple of comments from viewers. Keep up the good fight, Sheriff Allard. You have more support than you know. Stay strong. You probably get that a lot. Isn't that great?
Yeah, it's overwhelming.
Now, this is one that we've talked about a lot, and I know it's still some moves being made in the budget, but quote, we are wondering if the sheriff sees any movement towards the whole pot store issue.
So the last, we'll see what comes out of this budget, but last budget they spent more money to make more agents in the Office of Cannabis Management and made it so they're the only ones that can enforce the sticker stores.
Yeah.
I mean, it's specific. And I told you, I think last time I was on a Zoom meeting with the head of the Office of Cannabis Management. I'm like, tell me what we can do to help.
Please.
If you want me to FaceTime,
put me
as
in
I
coach.
walk in, we'll video, whatever we can do to help. And I was told, we'll have an agent reach out to you. Well, that was close to a year ago. Nothing. They come in town, they take the marijuana, they post the store, and then the store goes back to work the next day.
Exactly.
Or even the same day.
Mm-hmm.
And then they don't come back. And this has been a complaint across the state, not just here in Steuben County, but I talked to other sheriffs that have had the same experience.
Mm-hmm.
They come in and then they never return.
Yeah.
And these folks that are running these stores know this because a lot of them, it's a pretty big group and organization.
Mm-hmm.
Again, when you think of big tobacco, there's big marijuana too.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And that's how these laws get passed. But so they come in, they say you can't do it, take their stuff, 1 day's worth, and go away, and they make that up the next day.
Have you found in your career, when you tell a drug dealer you can't do that, does that normally work?
Why, yes.
Yes, every time. And you were saying how you use your foundation there to raise for some equipment.
Yep.
Those guys with the Office of Cannabis Management, because I watched the one get busted right here.
Yeah.
They're not wanting for much.
No.
They look like they're right out of a movie set. They had everything and the full equipment.
But again, this is often the manner in which New York State does things. They legalized it, said we're going to set up dispensaries. I think there might be 5 in the state right now.
Yeah.
There's one legal one in Ithaca.
Mm-hmm.
But then they spend all this money to set up the cannabis management after the fact. They don't have it in place before. So they kind of back into it and hope they don't fall over backwards.
That's really it.
And
they fell over backwards.
Yeah, it fell over backwards big time because the first few seizures they did were challenged in court and found to be unconstitutional.
Right.
So now where are you? And we spent all this money on it and continue to spend all this money, and we've seen nothing in taxes.
Nothing. It's a bootleg shop, essentially.
It is.
I mean, it's an old speakeasy.
And because of federal law, they have to be cash.
Yeah.
So
now I saw with the budget that they were saying that they would give local law enforcement basically almost padlock authority that they want to padlock these places for up to a year. But that's not really, that doesn't necessarily make me feel that that's enforcement.
No, it's not.
Right? I mean,
no, it's still not holding anyone accountable.
No, the only one that they said they might hold accountable is if you knowingly rent to somebody. But again, that's not really enforcement.
The business person.
The person who's paying taxes on the building. Yeah, that's the person that's not. Yeah,
that's our solution apparently.
And speaking of a lot of problems that we have in the state in the budget proposal, so what did you think personally when Hasty comes out and says that stricter penalties are not a crime deterrent?
That's not a factual statement.
I know,
and there's no data to support that.
Yeah, but doesn't that make you worry about what's? Yeah, yes,
that's it.
Yeah, but what? That's the mindset he's going in with, though.
Correct.
And that's why I think we're seeing so many of the things that we're unfortunately seeing.
Yes.
And specifically, do you think anything's going to be done with retail theft? Obviously, we had that tragic story right in Chemung County, directly affected because of retail theft.
Well, and again, so because of bail reform, I can go out, steal, arraign, release, arraign, release, and they're a lot of times they're grand larcenies. I mean, they're over $1,000. They're felonies.
Yeah.
And the folks that were involved in the injury of Investigator Thetke are folks that are in the system already for other thefts. But because I'm going to get released, if I get caught, I'm going to get released. If I don't get caught, I can continue to do what I'm doing.
Right.
If I do get caught, I can continue to do what I'm doing. I mean, let's just step back for a second and look at it from a reasonable common sense perspective.
Yeah.
The message is, go ahead and steal.
Yeah.
And when I talk to my fellow sheriffs up in Monroe and Ontario, in the malls up there, gangs are coming in and cleaning out stores. And they've been doing details since bail reform, trying to protect the business owners, but also protecting property and trying to get their judges to actually hold these people.
Right.
And, under state law, typically they can't. So it's, I don't think you need to be in Albany to understand that if someone steals, they need to be held accountable.
Right.
If someone breaks into a house, they need to be put in a place where they can't break into another house.
Yeah.
If someone threatens to blow up a school or shoot people at a school, they shouldn't be out walking around until we can get them the help they need to make sure that they're not going to think about doing that again.
Right.
And it's not rocket science.
No, I know Michael Goodwin in the New York Post said, if there's no penalties, if we take Hasty's mindset, we may all think that we're good, honest people, but we'd all be tempted to rob a bank. If there's no penalties, if they don't work. So with Hasty coming in with that mindset, and then you mentioned the retail theft, and I know they're saying there are gangs doing this and it's bigger numbers, but you also look at they were arguing over making stricter penalties for people that go in and attack retail employees.
Yes.
So already kind of a thankless job a little bit, but you're working, and you have to now worry about your safety and your life.
Yeah.
And Albany's not willing to put maybe a little stricter penalty on the person that comes in and attacks you.
Right. And the fact that they're talking about it lets you know that it's a grave problem.
Yes. Well, that's a great point. Yeah. The fact that that's even... Why would a business... This is completely unrelated, but why would a business even stay here at this point or think of coming here? I'm talking like a Target or something like that. Yeah.
So many of them don't.
Yeah.
I mean, we're down 10% in Steuben County in the last 10 years.
Right.
We're losing 1% a year.
Wouldn't you think from a political standpoint, a PR standpoint, that some of these, and I think Hochul does this a little bit, but try to make it look like you care about public safety? I mean, really, because you mentioned it when you get petition signed. People care about public safety.
They do.
And November is coming up. You would think they would at least do a little window dressing, but it doesn't seem like they're doing that in the budget either.
No, and the only public safety bills that I've seen are to make it even more difficult in the corrections side.
Yeah.
There's one bill that's in there now. So if we have an inmate who has severe health issues that we can't take care of without putting them in a hospital and then sending 2 people to guard them in the hospital around the clock, we can petition to the state prison system and say, we can't meet the needs for this person. Can you take them and put them in one of your hospitals because they have medical facilities? And the answer is always yes. And we have saved in overtime close to $750,000 taxpayer dollars of Steuben counties by doing that on 4 different occasions since I've been sheriff.
Right.
And there's a bill now to make that so that it can't happen. And it's like, what? You've got the bed. The bed is empty.
Yeah.
You've got the staff. You have the ability. Why wouldn't you help the counties out?
Everything is so wrong-headed, and it boils down to this is what happens when there's a supermajority. Any idea that they want to come up with, and to many of them, their base is this kind of defund the police, and it's more about coddling the criminals. Mm-hmm. But I mean, nothing shocks me anymore. But when I saw that they were really fighting against penalties for someone attacking a retail worker, that just. It goes to show you how screwed up it is here in the state, unfortunately. And I don't say this for fun. Mm-hmm. It just goes to show you that and when I say we can't agree, it's Democrats arguing with Democrats and all.
Right.
It's not. Republicans aren't even in this conversation.
Yeah, they're not even. They're like the kids over playing in the corner.
Yeah. You guys have fun over here. Let the grown-ups talk.
Yeah.
But that's what it seems like, that they can't even get together on something that minute. That seems like such a no-brainer that I think every year. It's just going to be new law after new law saying, okay, how can we do even more damage?
Yeah. Not only that, but how can we continue to have the support of our fundamental base?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Do you guys get terrified when it's budget season?
We do.
I mean, seriously.
So the Sheriff's Association tracks it.
Yeah.
And we have a lawyer that's a lobbyist for us at the Capitol. And he's continually tracking these bills and saying, hey, this is what it means if it goes. Get ready. This is what it means if it goes. And so by the time the ones that do get passed, we have an understanding, and we can contact our local folks and say, hey, this is a bad idea.
This is bad.
And they know it's a bad idea.
And we've got that's what's so frustrating, because we're doing great.
Yeah.
Assembly, Senate, all our area. We got the great guys.
We do. We have very good people representing us.
But it's the other ones that drive us crazy. So just to clarify that, we got to take a short break. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
New Chevrolet Trax LT, push button start, remote start, heated seats, adaptive cruise for only $24,799. Only at Elm Chevrolet. Visit us online at elmchevrolet.com. Together, let's drive.
I was an athlete when I grew up, and I always wanted to stay near athletes. What drove me to orthopedics and sports medicine in general was the need and the want to help these patients from their time of injury and helping them with surgery and through the rehab, getting them back to the field. My patients are obviously very important to me. These athletes, weekend warriors, all of them, I really want them to get back and be doing the things that they want to be doing.
Sheldon and Missy face off in Book Smarts versus Street Smarts.
I'm not feeling so good. Biohazard! Biohazard!
Young Sheldon.
Weeknights at 6:30 on Big Fox.
It's a new season of Sherry.
Having a good time has always been my #1 goal. I tend to get crazy. At my age, I should not be jumping up and down like that. And if you don't know what I mean, ask your mama. The young ones, y'all like, we don't know what you're talking about. But I promise you, in 30 years, you will.
It's the best time in daytime.
Weekdays at 2 p.m. on Big Fox.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. Sheriff Allard is joining us for the rest of the hour. So we've got a couple good questions. First of all, I'm copied and pasted here. Can you speak to what someone should do first if they found someone trespassing in their home? Because squatters' issues have become a major issue in the news.
Right. So it's a major issue in the news because of a New York City tenancy law, not an upstate issue. So if someone is unlawfully in your home, call 911.
Yeah.
We will come arrest them.
Yeah.
They don't have tenancy rights. The whole squatter thing is a New York City thing due to some of their tenant-regulated laws that they have down there. It's nothing to do with upstate.
Okay.
So actually it's funny that this one comes up because I was talking to a group of women a week or two ago, and it came, same thing. She said, I'm afraid to leave my house. Blah, blah. And I said, that's not up here.
Yeah.
Somebody's unlawfully in your house, we'll arrest them.
Yeah, call.
Period. And whether they're in there for a day or 2 days, we're still going to arrest them. And they have no tenancy rights. It's not an upstate thing. It is a downstate thing completely.
Okay. So stay tuned. They'll probably give it to us like they normally do. The bad decisions from the city coming up our way.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Is
so if somebody's unlawfully in your house, call 911.
Instantly. Okay.
Yeah.
One thing, and this is not obviously a positive story, but it is important to be aware that April is Child Abuse Awareness Month, and I know you've been speaking out on it with the newsletter and talking about it.
Yep.
It's amazing to think, but it's still such a major issue, right?
It is. Yeah. Again, we had, I think, when I talked to the district attorney, I believe we had close to 500 cases last year.
That's sad.
And, we've come so far. I'm so happy when the Clayton homicide occurred and we interviewed the daughter. I had to go to Chemung County because we didn't have a children's advocacy center in Steuben County at that time. We either went to Bavona up in Monroe County or down to Chemung County. We didn't even have the ability to do a childhood forensic interview here. And from that moment forward, I pushed really hard to get a children's advocacy center here in Steuben. And luckily, our DSS commissioner, Kathy Muller, was on the same bandwidth and pushed very hard, and the district attorney pushed very hard.
Right.
So now we have 2 CACs here in Steuben County. One is a mobile one. It's like a big RV that we take to agencies.
Oh, okay.
So if Corning PD has a case, we'll bring it down here and put it in Denison Park or some other place, and then the family can bring the child there for the forensic interview. If it's in Hornell, likewise. So we travel that around to make it easier on the families.
That's great.
It's worked out very, very well.
Now let's, because we've had a lot of different topics this morning. By the way, thank you for the answer the person said. It gets confusing because we are often forgotten until they want to impose their will on us.
Right.
That is true.
That's true. And it's scary.
It is.
I mean, you see that stuff on the news, and it's terrifying. It's like, oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
I can't leave, You
can't leave. And just in general, it's such scary news when it comes, because it doesn't seem like, that sounds about right for New York.
It does.
That's
it
how
sounds like something that would come out of Albany.
Yeah, exactly. So we're all just so jaded. But let's talk about some accommodations. You had, first of all, again, I love the newsletter. I know I say it every time, but you guys have been very busy, but you've also had some amazing things happen as well. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, almost every month I end up doing a accommodation of one of our folks for outstanding work. 2 months ago, it was one of our new deputies that did a life-saving event with a person that had tried to commit suicide and saved them, according to the paramedic. If he hadn't done the medical intervention, he's an EMT, the medical intervention he did, that person would not have survived until the ambulance got there. This past month, 2 of our deputies, when the tractor trailer crashed on the overpass, and they got there and they said, whoa, slow down.
Yeah.
Let's get the right equipment here. Yeah. Let's take a breath. Let's do things the right way here. Let's shut off the road down below. And everything worked out, no injuries. Thumbs up. We love that.
Yes.
This month we'll be commending one of our correction officers. I don't know if you remember, so like 4 or 5 years ago, we had a gentleman in the jail who decided to commit suicide and dove off the upper tier.
Yeah.
And landed on his head, causing grievous injury, and he subsequently died from that. So after that, we put fences up on the second tier to try and prevent an officer getting thrown off, but also to try and prevent suicide. So a few months ago, we had an inmate who was on the first floor, started up the steps. The correction officer, hey, you can't go up there.
Yeah.
Calls for backup, calls for code, and the guy went up. Well, he couldn't go down the tier. He could only go to the top of the stairs because of the fence. He dove off. The officer caught him.
Oh, my goodness.
And stopped him from, because he was dove off at first.
Yeah.
Caught him and stopped him from causing grievous injury to himself. And he got out of it with bumps and bruises. The officer had a banged up wrist and shoulder.
Yeah.
But the quick thinking and the fact that he was willing to do that again has saved a life and countless liability dollars for the county.
No, absolutely.
So
that's amazing though.
It is
good for him, because that's got to be a little scary.
Well, yeah,
Calling
and
that
it
pop fly.
was a good sized fella too.
Yeah. Oof.
And so we're going to be doing that commendation in May. But every time I see this, and I get emails every week about the great work our folks do.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And it's just amazing to me to see it, because that shows you they care.
Yes. And what does it mean when someone gets an accommodation like that for them? Is it just kind of that pat on the back that they obviously deserve, but maybe sometimes don't get when we talk about morale,
right?
And and just turning on the media every night. It must be nice sometimes to just get that.
It's that recognition,
attaboy.
plus that letter goes in their file.
Yeah. Okay.
And it goes towards their annual evaluation.
Okay.
And again, it's something that you can post wherever you want to post it, and your coworkers see it. And again, the public sees it,
right?
Which I think is even more important.
Man, I think that goes back to what you're talking about when you went to get petitions. You do such a great job in the sheriff's office. Shemung does too, but to get the word out of what is being done, because if you were to just leave it up to people watching the news at night or the media, you can lose a lot of people quick. And in this case, this is what, don't watch the nightly news on whatever channel. I don't want to say a channel. This is what we're actually doing, because it's all about local,
It is. And unfortunately, the local media outlets, there aren't any other than you and WLEA out of Hornell and WVIN out of Bath. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you want local news, you go to them, and even that, there's so much.
There's just so much. It's hard to keep up with. But it's nice when you see the accommodations and you see the coverage, because it's just, let's focus. I know I am talking about all the bad things in Albany, but it's nice to focus on the good things sometimes. And
it really is. And there's so much good going on in this county right now.
Yeah.
And especially, obviously in the sheriff's office, there's so much good going on. But, we team and we partner with all of our agencies, our partner agencies in the county. I think our relationship with the other police departments and the New York State Police is as strong as it's ever been.
That's great.
And, we help each other out, and we have to, because we're all shorthanded.
Right. Well, and that goes back to the shorthanded I was going to ask as we wrap up here. And the same with corrections officers, right? I mean, it's you guys are doing more work with less people.
Right.
It's got to get overwhelming at times.
It does.
Yeah.
It really does. Especially, our correction officers do such a fantastic job. And they're the unsung heroes a lot of times. And so that's another one of my focuses, is try to bring to attention the great work they do.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned it, and I want to say Phil Palmisano mentions it. It's not said enough, but they are keeping us safe.
Oh,
we don't,
absolutely.
They don't always present it that way, but that's exactly what they're doing. They are keeping us safe.
Well, especially today, because by the time folks end up in our jail, they've done something violent.
They've had to do a lot, right?
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
I'm not saying that lightly.
They've done something violent.
Yeah.
In order to end up there. So these folks are tasked with more dangerous folks than ever.
Yeah.
And they do a phenomenal job.
Yeah. Well, we are out of time. Thanks for giving us so much time this morning.
Yeah.
Good luck with
anytime.
everything.
Yes.
I'm sure we'll be talking again soon. So join us tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. for Frankly Speaking here on WYDC
Tomorrow you got
TV.
Joe.
No, Joe's not on. I had him on. I had him on before. Yeah, I screwed up the schedule.
Okay.
Yeah, no, Joe's going to be on, I think, a week. I got to talk to him. Anyway, join us tomorrow morning at 6 for Frankly Speaking.
Something with a diamond in it.
Diamondback rattlesnake.
It's in the name. Name a low-calorie food you might make your edible underwear out of.
Salmon.
Watch it weeknights. Share it the next day.
Wild caught Norwegian teriyaki.
Share in the fun. Weeknights on Family Feud.
7 and 7:30 on Big Fox.